Hello and welcome to CIPD Bitesize. In this video, we're going to be looking at the AC3.2 from the 5C002 unit evidence-based in practice. Evidence-based in practice. And this is the last question of the first task, which is 7 questions, 2,900 words, 414 words per question. Now, there is a scenario for this. I'm going to let you pause the video and read the scenario, but you have to reference the scenario within your response to be able to pass this. You need to score a minimum of 2 to pass this unit. If you don't reference the scenario, then you cannot pass the unit. So ensure that you are fully up to speed with Bill Swanky and Sue Young, and you being that people practice professional going through the particular support and everything that they need. So just make sure that you're fully up to speed with the question. Now let's look at the question. Explain. So your verb is explain. Got to make sure you address the verb. How people practices could add value to Technivara, and identify 2 methods that might be used to measure impact of these people practices. So explain how people practices can add value, and explain 2 methods how you can measure impact. So how do you measure impact? So basically, think about ways that you could improve things at Technivara based on what's been written, identify the 2 measures, and how it might be used to measure impact. Everything's paper-based, it says in the scenario, so think about things that you could digitize. How could you measure impact? So if sickness is done via paper-based, how could digitization measure the impact? If holidays are paper-based, how could digitization measure impact? If turnover is paper-based, how could digitization measure impact? It's relatively a simple question. You just have to think about the 2 methods people practice could add value, and identify 2 methods that might be used to measure the impact. So what methods could you use to track and measure impact? That's the critical parts of this question. Now, as always, CIPD want you to let you work out AC3.2 and then put your response underneath. You've got action points. So you've got identified method 1, identified method 2. 2 critical action points for this particular question for me. And you've got 414 words, so that's 200 words per action point. So if we give you the example of our study plan, you've got your question, which is 3.2. You've got your verb, which is explain, scenario required, yes. Word count, 414. Impact measure 1, impact measure 2. References, case studies, evidence. This is going to be one of those where you want to have some data about someone else that's done this, some data about somebody else that's implemented it, some data about how this has been used in the past. That's how you would do this. Now, as always, here is an example of a study plan. Pause it, write it in a pad, something like that. Just follow the same actions. We do this so that you've got a bit of a plan to approach the question. And that way, if someone's got a slightly different idea or anything like that, you've got a study plan in your head about how you're going to approach this moving forward. And here's an example of what I'm feeling about. Now, recommended reading, AIHR, how to measure HR effectiveness, 12 useful metrics. Well, you have to identify 2 methods that might be used to measure impact. So if I'm sending you to a recommendation of 12, surely you can pick 2 out of that. CIPD research, evaluating the impact of human resource management systems, and CIPD fact sheet people analytics. Because I think I've said it every time in this video, CIPD loves CIPD. But some recommended reading to help you think about that particular answer. Now, remember you're thinking about Technivara in this particular instance. You might be thinking about your organization, and that's absolutely okay for you to be able to contextualize it. But remember, you have to flip it into Technivara, who are a paper-based, technology-based company and things like that, and they're new to this. So how you would integrate and implement like that. And you have to reference the company within your response for us to be able to know that you've fully addressed the scenario. Now, as always, to try and help you understand the question, we give you a bit of a fictitious scenario to contextualize it a little bit more. And for this particular one, we're going to make you a baker. Don't know why he's got HR on his thing. It just seems like everyone's got HR on their thing. But imagine a bakery as an organization. Ingredients represent resources, people, equipment, materials, and the recipes and processes are how work gets done. and the baked goods are the product or the services. So if you imagine how people practices add value in the bakery, quality and consistency of the baked goods depend heavily on the skills and motivation of the bakers, i.e. the people. Well-trained bakers who are passionate about their craft are more likely to produce high-quality products that customers love. Similarly, in an organization, effective people practices can contribute to overall success by attracting and retaining top talent, enhancing employee engagement and motivation, developing employees and capabilities, fostering a positive and inclusive workplace culture. So 5 methods that they could measure the impact is, let's say, employee satisfaction surveys. Measuring employee satisfaction with various aspects in the workplace, employee turnover rates, absenteeism rates, productivity metrics, customer satisfaction surveys, because at the end of the day, organizations produce something for a consumer, for a stakeholder of some description. How happy are they with the end product and the services? So think about methods that might be used to impact. If you think about customer satisfaction, satisfied customers are more likely to attribute positive experience to the organization's positive people practice. If someone's complaining that they're getting a rubbish customer service experience and that they seem disengaged, they seem not interested, they seem like, well, again, training, development, people practices, how do you integrate promotions, retention, duration of people in employment, service, benefits, utilization of benefits. These are all the things that you can use to measure impact of people practices. And think about what would be the most beneficial to Technivara in this particular instance. Think about how you could help them take the biggest leap forward as they're growing and things like that. That's what they want you to think about. So think about, okay, you've got all these different ingredients and people are going to pull them together in the business. How do you ensure that every ingredient is sourced ethically, is treated fairly, and everything like that? That's what you want to think about. How do you track that? How do you report that? How do you ensure everyone's got a line of sight on that? How do you make people feel safe and secure that it's being looked after by the business and that they're interested in being looked after? And that's what it's wanting you to do with this particular question. Absolutely best of luck with this one. Sure, do great, and we'll catch you on the next one.